All right, go ahead.
Hey, it's Debra Poneman, and I am here on Your Superior Self.
Deborah, yes, success. I've been waiting forever to talk to you. I'm so thankful that you're here tonight. I love your story. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here with you.
I just have to ask. So you are well known in the law of attraction field, that circuit. You started your career a very long time ago. I'm not going to say very long, a while ago, right? Became very successful, traveled the world teaching your seminars, teaching your curriculum to people and training people to do that for themselves. And then you stopped, right? So I'm interested in knowing two things from this: is how you got started in that world and why did you stop?
Okay, well, I will give you the Cliff Notes version, although I think now kids don't need Cliff Notes anymore. But anyway, I actually became and you could say it was a long time ago because it really was, because I became a meditation teacher in the 70s. And you've heard of transcendental meditation. And I taught thousands of people meditation. But at the end of the decade of the 70s, I realized that woman does not live by mantra alone. And I actually had to make some money. I mean, I thought it would be good to have like a car or health insurance. And but I love teaching meditation. And I thought, okay, I want to do something where I make money really fast. How do people make money really fast? And I thought they sell investments. So I left the meditation community that I was living in, moved to LA, started selling investments because obviously I thought everybody was rich in LA, and started selling investments. I was a dismal failure. I mean, I guess there's no such thing as failure. You just learn what you need to learn from every endeavor. But let's just say I didn't sell one investment except to my dear father, may he rest in peace. So anyway, but we make, the expression, we make plans and God laughs. Well, my plan was to make a ton of money so I could go back to teaching meditation. Well, that wasn't working out really well. But one night I went to an event that I thought was going to help me be more effective at selling investments, because it was called like Money and You or something like that. I can't remember what it was called, but it's something about learning how to make money. And I walk in, this is 1980, and the guy was talking about the law of attraction. He's talking about how however you vibrate, that's what you're going to draw into your life. He said, we're like tuning forks. And if you're always walking around being negative and I'm never going to get out of debt, nothing works out for me, like Debbie Downer, that's how you vibrate. And if you vibrate like that, like a tuning fork, that's a B flat, it can't vibrate into itself an F sharp. It can only vibrate at a B flat. And he said, if you want to change your life, change your mindset. Well, I hadn't heard this before. I mean, that was like 20 years, maybe 25 years before The Secret, but it sure made sense to me. And he also said that if you really want to go for the gold and make a lot of money and really open yourself up to prosperity, help other people become successful and prosperous, not only by giving them context, by mentoring them, but just by, when somebody makes a lot of money, instead of going, oh, that jerk, I knew him in high school, he was a jerk back then, just say, hey, I wish him all continued success and prosperity. And when you open yourself to that, you're not vibrating with jerk and not deserving, but you vibrate with a higher vibration of caring and love. Okay, so I went home that night, because another thing this guy told us is that if we don't know what we want to do with our lives, write down the qualities of what you love to do. So, and then he said, and then it might reveal to you what you should be doing with your life. So I went home and I wrote down all the things I love: talk, obviously, travel, work with people who I love, laugh until I cry until I laugh, contribute to people's lives. So I made this list, and boom, I woke up in the morning and I was like, I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to do what that guy does. I'm going to teach people these principles of success and prosperity. And here's the first principle that I learned, because what I decided to do was I was going to study all of the great masters, like Napoleon Hill
Hmm.
and, them all, Wallace Wattles and Florence Shinn and Earl Nightingale and Catherine Ponder. And I had to go to the library back then. We didn't have computers. And I just started devouring all of their tapes and all of their books. And one of the things all of the masters said is that when an idea comes to you, it comes to you because it wants to be manifested through you. You're the vehicle that was kind of like chosen for that idea. That's why we all have different ideas. Okay. I didn't have an idea to have a podcast called Your Superior Self, but I had an idea to teach Yes to Success. Somebody else has the idea to become a massage therapist, somebody else to become a violinist, somebody else. And we also have ideas that use our God-given innate talents. And I've always loved to speak in front of groups. So anyway, another thing that I learned from these great masters is that you shouldn't wait until you think you're ready, because you'll never think you're ready. You'll always have some excuse why you can't do it. You just have to take a step from which there's no turning back. Because if you wait for everything to be perfectly in place, you'll wait until your deathbed, because it just ain't gonna happen. We live in a relative universe, always loose ends. So there's a lot of other things that I learned about how to become successful in my career. Like, don't go around telling everyone what you're going to do before you're ready to do it, because you're going to bump up against the discouragement committee. Those people are going to tell you why your idea is stupid and it's not going to work. And it could crush your seed of an idea before it even has a chance to sprout. So I learned all of these things from the masters that I was studying. I became a product of the product. And so I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. I just went out and put up posters, which is what we did back in 1980. Santa Monica Public Library, Debra, my name was Olson at the time, to speak on how to create success and the power of the mind. And even though when the posters went up, the discouragement committee told me nobody was going to believe a crazy idea like that and no one was going to show up. But I already had the posters up, so I had to go do my talk, and they were a standing room only. And within the next few years, my seminars were taught all over the world.
That's amazing. I love that story. And then you're successful, and then you quit.
I did. So you want to know why I quit?
But it's an honorable reason. It's a very respectable reason. So I'm not shaming you. I'm actually applauding you.
Thank you. Well, I got pregnant. And although my plan was to give birth and get back to following my passion of spreading the message of success throughout the world, the core of what I teach, and really to be your superior self, to live true success, is you need to be true to yourself. I'm sure all of your guests say that. You have to follow the impulses of truth that speak to you from your heart. And, with all the assuredness of an evangelical preacher, I had told the world that the basis of true success was to listen to that voice that we so often ignore. And so I take one look at this baby and I think, I don't want to leave her to go to the bathroom, let alone leave her to go traveling around the world. And I was supposed to have the baby and then go on tour in Singapore. If you have read some of the things about me, I was in negotiations with a very prominent production company to have my own daytime TV talk show.
Oh.
And my Yes to Success book was in the hands of a major New York publishers. They all wanted it. But if you really want true happiness and real success, you have to trust the impulses of your heart. So on that fateful day in 1988, the impulses of my heart were saying it's time for my career to come to a screeching halt. And I decided to be a full-time mom at home. And there I stayed for 21 years, because my daughter was born, and then 3 years later, my son. And by the way, just so you know, nobody was happy with me. The guy in Singapore, Chiang, he called me up. This is true. He called me up. Oh, I heard you had the baby. Let's get the tour on the books. I said, Chiang, I love you so much, but you're going to have to call me back in 18 years.
Sure. That sounds good, right? It sounds right now you're very confident in that decision. I'm going to stay home and be true to my to myself here and be the most authentic version of Debra that I can possibly be, because I want to stay home with my baby and I want to be the mom that I want to be. But I'm sure you regretted, not regretted. I shouldn't say that. I'm sure you weren't confident in that decision after you made it. Like maybe the first year you're kind of like, oh, what am I doing? You had to question it.
Well, the truth is that people say, did I ever doubt my decision? I always say, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Of course I did. First of all, my favorite part that just brought doubts overflowing was when I was home knee deep in dirty diapers and all of my students had New York Times bestselling books. That was
There's
like,
one story about Oprah, right? Like one of your
oh
students was
yeah,
on Oprah.
yes. Okay, that's one of my favorite stories. Do you have kids, Trey?
I have 3.
Okay, so you know those days when they're like 2 or 3 or 4, and there's nothing you can do to get them to stop whining.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we can all agree that we have all had those days. Well, I had one of those days. I didn't try, I tried not to put my kids in front of the TV too much, but when you've really had it up to here and you're just going to burst, it's like, thank goodness for the TV. So my kids wanted to watch Barney. My son was only 2. He didn't speak, but but my daughter was, where's Barney? She had a speech impediment. She couldn't say her R's. Where's Barney? Where's Barney? I'm going to find you, Barney. Just bring. So I'm doing this channel check looking for Barney, that big purple dinosaur thing. So I'm looking for Barney. And all of a sudden I see Oprah. And not only do I see Oprah, but I see one of my students on Oprah. And not only was one of my students on Oprah, but he was doing a demonstration for her that showed the power of your mind to even move matter. And he was doing this demonstration that I had actually cognized in a meditation and I taught in my seminars. And I'm not blaming him. As a matter of fact, I'm thrilled that he did it, because when I retired, I said, you know what, to my students, take everything, teach it. You don't have to give me credit. However, that particular morning, he has Oprah going, oh, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And
I think I know who you're talking about. But that's crazy.
Right. And I have these kids on the couch like, where's Barney? And here's Oprah. So I'm standing in front of the TV and I'm like, and I burst into tears and I start sobbing. The good news is that it made my kids like stop whining because they couldn't outwhine me at the moment. And really the truth is that I'm standing there and I thought at that moment, I was absolutely sure that I had ruined my life. That was it. My chance was done. It was gone. He gets Oprah. I get them. It's all over. And the only thing that kind of shocked me out of my self-imposed pity party was my daughter says to me, you could relate, Mommy. I go, yes, sweetheart. She goes, I think you forgot our popsicles.
Oh man, that will break the ice in one of those moments.
That was it. So do you want to know the next thing that happened where I realized that I actually was going to have another chance?
Yeah.
Okay. So the end of the story, I go into the kitchen, I'm pouring the orange juice into the plastic mold, because that's what I made popsicles for the kids. And I am so freaking mad at God. And I'm like, how could you do this to me? That was supposed to be me. And I'm having this conversation internally, with the God of my understanding who had completely betrayed me. And I heard this little voice that says, remember the book. And I'm like, I do remember the book. That was supposed to be my book. And then this little voice inside says, no, not that book. And I saw this image of a book that I had read years before, and it was about a guy who had died. You ever read those books where people die and then they come back and tell you what happened?
Yeah.
So this guy had died and he went through the tunnel of darkness, and there was a being of light at the end of the tunnel. And the being of light welcomed him to wherever it was, heaven, and said, would you like to see like a movie of the high points of your life? And the man said, yes, I would. And it was a very short movie reel. It just showed him like showing his son how to swing a baseball bat and dancing with his daughter at her wedding. And he's like indignant. even in heaven, like, whoa, what about when I brought my company public? What about when I, did this? He even said, what about when I became an Eagle Scout? And the being of light said, all of those instances glorified you. And then the being of light offered the man that he could see the life of somebody else who had just passed on. And the man said, yes, I want to see whoever this is. And in the book, it said these curtains of golden light parted, and there on a throne of golden light was the woman who used to clean his house, who would take like 2 or 3 buses just to scrub his toilets. And the being of light says, used to judge her as some pathetic creature, but she had a glorious life. And then showed all of the high points of her life. And it was like an endless reel. It showed her, carrying a pot of soup to a sick friend. And it showed her, comforting the child when the child had been bullied, and just holding and saying everything's going to be okay. And stroking her mother's hair when her mother was making her transition, and just like going to church and hugging everybody up and saying, how you doing today? And then the being of light said to the man, when you get here, you discover that the only thing that matters while you're on earth is how much love you give.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And that all came to me while I was pouring the orange juice into those plastic molds and putting them in the freezer. And after I heard that, I just went back into the living room and I sat between my 2 kids and I put my arms around them and watched Barney with them. And for the next, like I say, a total of 21 years, I put away Napoleon Hill and I put away Wallace Wattles, and I learned from my 2 greatest teachers. And those are the teachers who call me mom. And they're still my 2 greatest teachers.
That's amazing. Yeah. We get lost, right? Especially when we're working towards something, when we're future oriented, we kind of get out of that, we lose that moment for a little bit, and we get focused on the wrong things, the external things, right? Like we get that external motivation to get the materialistic, the goals. It's just like, I want to be this, X, Y, and Z. And for you to achieve that early on and then have 2 children and say, I'm stepping away from that, like that's just such a humbling moment for me, really, because it's like, you're right, it is the amount of love that we bring to this world that is the biggest success. So when you say yes to success, you're, in my vision of that is saying yes to love, yes to being that love, and bringing that to other people and bringing them up to where you're at vibrationally. I really love your work. I love listening to your talks. You're a fantastic speaker. But during those 21 years, were you at all thinking about what you would do afterwards? Like what inspired you to come back?
And actually, I really never thought about it because I was too busy being the room mom and the field trip mom and the soccer mom and the basketball mom and the behind the stage mom. What I loved about it? It's like, oh, you sacrifice. I didn't sacrifice anything. It's like you get to relive your childhood, but with appreciation and awareness. Like you appreciate going to the zoo, you appreciate all those things that, so much more. And also the joy of watching your kids enjoying and being on the basketball team and this and that. But my friends kept saying to me, when are you going to come back? When are you going to come back? When are you going to come back? Because again, I don't know if I shared with you, but people who, like Marcy Shimoff, who is the #1 nonfiction bestselling author of all times. She sold over 17 million chicken soup books. Chicken Soup of the Woman's Soul and the Couple Soul and the Single Soul and all the souls. And Deepak Chopra was one of my students, and Janet Atwood of the Passion Test was one of my students. And the reason why I actually came back was because Janet one day said to me, I love you, and you have to stop pretending that your kids still need you. They were like 18 and 15. I'm still reading them Harry Potter to go to sleep. No, I'm not. They were like, okay, Mom, we can read Harry Potter to ourselves. But the truth is, she said, when are you going to stop pretending that your kids still need you? And the truth is that I don't know if my kids ever needed me. And here's the thing. I don't say everybody should stay home with their kids. I say you have to follow your passion. And there are a lot of kids who turned out really, really great. And their parents worked full time. As a matter of fact, my kids loved when I did something where I was on the stage, where I was, invited to speak or to write, which I did, worked around the birthday parties and the basketball games, but they loved it when I shined. That's my mom. So, but when Janet said I have to stop pretending that the kids still need me, I realized it wasn't them who needed me so much as me who needed them. Because to me, one, I love you, Mommy, was worth more than 1,000 standing ovations. And it still is to this day. I live for those moments. But she was right. She said, your kids don't need you. They're great, but the world needs you. Get back on the speaking circuit. And I said, okay. Here's another principle of being, your superior self. When you do something good for somebody, when you support them, it will always come back to you. Maybe not tomorrow or the next day, but the boomerang effect, and as soon as I said, okay, I'm going to get going again, boom, Janet got me a speaking engagement on a huge stage after having been gone for 21 years. Because she remembered that the first time she ever spoke in front of a group was when I let her speak on my stage back 21 years before. I don't know if you know Janet Atwood. She wrote The Passion Test, New York Times bestselling author 2 times. But and Marcy too. Marcy Scheimoff used to be my secretary. And but when I was ready to come back, boom, not only did she refer me places to get speaking engagements, but she invited me to become her partner in Your Year of Miracles. And we just launched a company together, and, and it was $1 million launch our very first year. Wow. And she remembered again that I shared these principles of success with her that allowed her to be so successful. And she wanted to not only pay me back, but the other thing that I think is being your superior self is always remembering to treat everybody like the most important person in the world. And Marcy also remembered that when she came up to me after one of my Yes to Success seminars, she was just a little college student. She said, oh, I love what you do. I want to work for you. I didn't look around the room to see if there was somebody more important to speak to. There probably was, but I gave her my full attention, because the most important person in the world is the person standing in front of you at any given moment. And people remember that. So, that Maya Angelou quote, they won't remember what you did or what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. So you do that, and then people will always be there to give you a hand up when it's your turn to need it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Taking care of everyone, really, and giving your space, or giving them your space and your time and your attention is probably one of the most, underrated things that you can possibly do when you're interacting with people. I just love the law of attraction. For me, it's always been whose method works the best, right? How am I going to be able to actually attract the things that I want in my life? And at the very beginning of this journey that I've been on, it was a lot about the materialistic things. It was, how can I obtain this or be more successful or blah, blah, blah. And the more that I develop as a consciousness, spiritual being, the more of those things fall away from me. And it's not really that. It's I've listened to you and you talk about the vibration and you start attracting things more so in your life. But for me, it's more or less I want to spread that love that you were talking about. And I just stumbled upon it recently, about, I've heard the term gratitude a lot, right? You need to start a gratitude journal. And I just kind of all right, yeah, I'll start a gratitude journal. I mean, I'm big into journaling, but gratitude journal. Yeah. How many things a day can I say that I'm grateful for? Yeah, I'm thankful for this, but really meaning that, now I find myself really just being in the moment. Today I was playing catch with my kids outside. It was nice. First time in forever, it feels like. But just being like, man, I am just so thankful for right now, this moment, right? Like, I don't care if I'm ever successful, but for right now, I get to experience this and being grateful for that. And for every opportunity that I've had, like speaking to you right now, like I'm so in the moment and I'm so grateful for this. Like here I am speaking with one of the pioneers on the law of attraction circuit. And I'm here just enjoying you and taking in your story of like how you came to be and how you decided to follow your path. And that meant leaving that industry and going and taking care of your kids, coming back and building that back up. And then I think you left again.
I did.
So it's like, it's the roller coaster ride of Debra Poneman. Like I'm loving this ride.
And I love the image of you playing catch with your kids. And, you know, you nailed it. It's like being in the present moment. And just so many of it, people, all of us, we miss the present moment because we're dashing through our lives. But I just love that you just said that, us being together right now. I mean, it's so precious.
Mhm.
And just breathing that in and being grateful for it. And one of the things I love about gratitude, and then I'll tell you why I left the second time, is that if you really want to go for the brass ring, or I guess it would be the golden ring, have gratitude not only for all of the good things, and I remember to have gratitude for the good things, you know, the proverbial parking space, you put your little name in a little lottery at your I was at an event, the Evolutionary Business Council, and I won the grand prix, oh wow, thank you. I always say thank you, God, to the God of my understanding. But if you really want to go for the gold, give thanks for the things that don't appear to seem so good. I remember one time when I was living in Chicago. I still live in Chicago, but I was living in Chicago, and my husband and I had just gotten divorced, and I let him stay in the big house because I just decided I wanted to just live in a little apartment by myself. And I didn't want anything. I said, I don't need a garage. I don't need a lawn to take care of. I don't need a roof to replace. I just want a little apartment. So I move in this little apartment. And then there's a snowstorm. I remember it was like 20 below with the wind chill. This is Chicago. And I live right
Not
by
Chicago, not snow in Chicago.
not Chicago. And I had to park like blocks away because it was like a urban neighborhood. And I was lucky to find a parking place blocks away. And I remember carrying groceries and my eyes were tearing and my eyes actually froze shut. I couldn't open them because it was so cold that the tears froze and they froze and I'm like trying to unfreeze at least one eye so I could see where I'm going. And I kept saying, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Because I know that, how does Byron Katie say, like, nothing happens to you, everything happens for you. You don't have to like it. It's just easier if you do. So I didn't have to like walking through Chicago with grocery bags and freezing my butt off, but it was easier for me to say, thank you, God, thank you, God. And the crazy thing about it, something just went crazy. Are you still there? Oh, there you are. Something got weird with my computer. But the miracle of saying thank you when it doesn't seem so good is that it opens you up for greater good to come to you. And when you look back, even those things that seem like they were really awful, they always turn out to be a blessing, but only 100% of the time. I mean, sometimes you have to look for the silver lining, but I got back in the house, put down my groceries, and I thought, why am I living here? And I moved to California within a month. I was partners with Marcy at the time. She lived in Santa Fe. She'd been trying to get me to move there. My daughter was going to chiropractic school in California. I was like, why am I living here in this frozen tundra? But had that thing not happened, I said, thank you, God, thank you. Then it was revealed to me what I could do to, it was just a gift. And literally the van was packed and I was on my way to California within a month. Okay, now back to why did I leave the second time? And here's the story. So I started this wonderful program called Your Year of Miracles with Marcy, and we were in heaven. I mean, we were just putting together this incredible miracles program, and we had thousands of people taking the course, and they were having incredible miracles in their life. It's such a great program. It's still going on. And about the middle of the 5th year, I realized that it was so good that we were kind of teaching the same thing every year, because if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right?
Mhm.
And there was no reason to change anything because people were having miracles in their lives. But I'm a creative. And what brings me the greatest joy is creating new knowledge. And there wasn't really a place for that, because, the first month was self-love, and the second month was success. Then the third month, it was, it was like that. And it was so good. We didn't want to touch it. And I decided that I had to tell Marcy that I wanted to move on,
Mm.
and I wanted to go back, and I wanted to teach something where I could write new material and write new lectures. And it was so cute because Marcy's like, no, you can't leave me. No, 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 you're the only person I could do it with. But I reminded her one of the main principles that we teach, and that is, when you do what's best for yourself, it will always be what's best for everyone else,
Mm.
but only 100% of the time. See, a lot of us, what we do is we sacrifice ourselves because, we don't want to hurt another person, or we decide what's best for them. So we stay long after the expiration date, like in our marriages,
Mm.
because we don't want to hurt the other person. But if you do what's best for yourself, they're going to find somebody that's better for them than you. Trust me, I've done it twice. And both of my ex-husbands, who I love and adore, but they are in so much better marriages now than they were with me. Really, I mean, I adore both of their wives. And, oh, I don't want to hurt them. It's not that you don't want to hurt them. It's you don't want to feel the pain of you hurting them,
Mm.
or thinking that you hurt them. So
Mm.
really, you're protecting yourself. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. And so Marcy did not want me to leave, but then we just had to accept that what we teach is true. It will be what's best for everyone else. And I leave Sue Morter and Lisa Gard, two of the most kick-ass women on the planet, take my place. And your year of miracles thrives even more than when I was there. Right. And so that's it. It's like, and it was so hard for me to tell Marcy, okay, I mean, don't be impressed that I had the courage to follow my heart and give up this lucrative gig. And, people say to me, oh, I wish I was as courageous as you. I mean, don't put me on any kind of pedestal, because it was not a cakewalk. It was really, really hard. And I had to have a lot of trust in the universe. And it was a big leap of faith. But if you want to be your superior self, you just have to listen to your heart.
Mm.
You have to listen to the impulses of your heart leading you. And I remember Lisa Nichols. I don't know, Lisa Nichols?
Mm-mm. No.
Okay, she what is her I can't remember what her the name of her No Matter What is the name of her New York Times bestseller book. And she says, you will be afraid when you take a leap, but it's not because it's the wrong dream if you're afraid. It's the right dream if you're afraid.
Oh.
And this is where most people get stopped, but your dreams have to be bigger than you. Right. And Lisa shared the story about Martin Luther King and how his mission was so big and he was so afraid. And then God spoke to him in his heart and he said, I will give you everything you need. March on, Martin. And he did, because he was more committed to his divine assignment than he was to his fear. And it gives me goosebumps. And my divine assignment was to be a content creator. So I went back to teaching Yes to Success again. And I have not only my Yes to Success course that I teach, but I teach something called Success Circle and Yes to Success 2.0. And I get to create new material all the time. And I'm in heaven and Marcy's in heaven. But by the way, if you think this is too big, I can't do this, you're right. You can't, but you're not doing it. There's a higher power that works through you. If your dream burns in your heart, that's because you're the one who's supposed to move on it.
Mm.
And you will never, ever be given an assignment without the Creator giving you everything you need to fulfill that assignment. The Creator isn't a trickster. The Creator doesn't say, here is your dream, but ha ha ha, I'm not going to give you what you need to fulfill it. No, that isn't how it works. So follow that inner guidance, listen to what it says. And my inner guidance said yes to move on. And, it says yes to move on all the time. I moved to California. I moved back to Chicago. I've been there for 3 years. Now I'm moving back to California.
I love it.
I
I
tend to
love it.
roll
It's
that
the
way.
roller coaster. I love it. But you say you listen to that heart, and I know you're a huge transcendental meditation participant or instructor, right? Is that where you listen to your heart the most in meditation, or do you hear
Well,
it the loudest in those moments?
well, I'll share with you and your audience something that I teach in my courses, and that is, I actually learned it from Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill is either in Think and Grow Rich or Grow Rich with Peace of Mind. He talks about sitting for ideas. And what he says is that when he starts his day, every day he takes out a blank sheet of paper. I mean, this is in 1920. And he would write across the top of the page, God, what are you and I going to create today? Again, the God of his understanding. It could be spirit, source, whatever you wanted, Jesus, whatever you want to put at the top of your page, whatever, where you feel you get guidance from. If you're an atheist, you could say, my higher self, whatever. But he would say, God, what are you and I going to create today? And then he would just let the pen write itself. It's kind of like taking dictation from God. He would just let it flow, let it flow, let it flow, let it flow. It's not a thinking exercise. It's a spontaneous writing exercise. And then he would read it, and what it said to do, that was the guidance that he received. And what I say, two things. One is, if you want a formal technique to hear your guidance, yes, absolutely do a meditation practice. The two that I recommend are either transcendental meditation or Sahaj Samadhi meditation. It's the meditation taught through the Art of Living Foundation. They both come from the same tradition. And because you really transcend and you really go beyond thought to that unbounded place of peace. And then when you come out, you bring that peace with you, and you're much more in touch with your intuition. Because when we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off, we are not in touch with our intuition. But when you take the time to meditate and transcend, you come out of that silence. That's when you sit for ideas. I call it sitting for guidance. And I say, whatever you're grappling with in your life, after you take your meditation time, take out your paper, or you can do it on your computer and write the question across the top of the page. What can I do? What should I be doing in this relationship? Should I stay or should I leave? Whatever question it is, should I move to California? Should I stay in Chicago? What ideas do you have, God of my understanding, for the next step in my life? And then you just write, because it's a way for God, source, spirit, your higher self, to give you the guidance that it wants to give you, but usually we don't give it a channel for that guidance to come. So that's what I do. And also when somebody asks you a question, by the way, or if somebody asks you to do something for them, you don't have to say yes right away. Just pause, breathe, ask for guidance, and then say what the true answer is, instead of, oh yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And then you go home and you're kicking yourself. You don't have to be in a race. Just breathe, ask your higher self what the real answer is, then give the answer. And usually it's truer than what you would give if you're running around.
Sure. Man, that's such a good answer. I think my struggle is that voice mine, or is that the voice of divine? Or you know what I mean? Like, is that something, is like, because like I in my meditations, it's always like, keep going, keep pushing yourself, you will achieve your goals. But I don't know, like, it's like I don't want it to be like that unconscious part of me, or like that unconscious like wanting to achieve the goals, or my ego making that up for myself, you know what I mean? Like, So like I'll get in a meditative state, like for sure, and have a conversation with what I consider my higher self or larger consciousness. And some pretty meaningful conversations, but then it's like, man, that's it seems like too good to be true. Do you ever like struggle with that?
Um, Here's what I'll say about that. Yeah, I do. I do. But the voice of your intuition, the voice of God, the voice of your higher self never is brutal, never insults you, never says, that's stupid, never says, you have to do it right now. Okay, that voice of God, your intuition, your higher self is gentle, is loving you. I mean, the God of your understanding is not going to say, you idiot, why did you do it that way? No, you better hurry and write it right now, write that wrong right now. But they might say, my darling Trey, I know that you feel sad about what just happened, but just be patient because the good in it will present itself. So there's one thing about your intuition or your higher self. It's always kind. It's never critical. And the other thing is that when you get guidance, when you're sitting for guidance, when you get guidance, act on it. And when you act on it, see, most of us, we get this incredible guidance and we don't do anything about it because then we get scared. Because it's big, it's not linear. Usually it's not linear. It's not step by step by step. It's like you might say, should I, move to California? And the guidance might be, take more walks on Lake Michigan. That isn't what I'm asking. I'm asking, should I move to California? And the guidance says, smell the flowers. So it might not have anything to do with what you're asking, but do what that guidance is telling you to do. And see if the answer that you're seeking doesn't reveal itself to you in a roundabout way that you couldn't have thought of yourself. Give it a chance.
I love it. I'm so glad that we were finally able to do this. Debra, how can people connect with you? How can they reach you?
My website, Yes to Success, and it's TO, yes, TO success.com. And if they go there, they can get a free ebook. I was supposed to have this book published many, many years ago. And ever since then, it was like 1988, that my book was in the hands of this two New York publishers, I'm sorry. And I never wrote it, but people kept saying, please write your book, please write your book, please write your book. So finally I wrote an ebook. I took the 5 most important secrets that I teach about true success, and I put it in an ebook. So I condensed it to about 40 pages from, whatever it was, 200 pages, but I took the best of the best. So people can get that ebook for free on my website.
I love it. I'll definitely get that book. Debra, thank you so much. This has been like, seriously, I am very grateful. Thank you so much for taking the time in this space of time reality for coming on this show. Thank you.
And thank you. And thank you for what you're doing. And give those kids of yours a big hug from me.